The first time I saw him, he looked like he'd fallen straight from the heavens, except his eyes told a different story. They weren't pure or innocent. They were broken, like glass shattered too many times to ever be whole again. And somehow, in that instant, I knew I wasn't supposed to look away. It was late evening in downtown New York, the streets buzzing with people rushing home, neon lights flickering, horns blaring, and the city's endless chaos pressing in. But in the middle of all that noise, there he was leaning against a crumbling brick wall in an alley, smoking like the world was daring him to quit. His black leather jacket hung loosely, his lips curved into the kind of smirk that told you he had nothing to lose. And me? I was the idiot who couldn't stop staring. "Got a problem?" he asked, his voice sharp, like he wanted to cut me before I even came close. "No," I lied, even though every nerve in my body screamed that I did. The problem was him, his presence, his defiance, and the strange pull in my chest that made me feel alive and terrified all at once. His name was Adrian, a name that felt too holy for someone who swore like a sailor, fought like the world was against him, and kissed like he was trying to burn away his sins. I didn't know it then, but Adrian was about to tear my life apart and stitch it back together in ways I never imagined. I should have walked away. Any sane person would have. But I didn't. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was punishment. Or maybe it was love, hiding beneath all the bruises and scars neither of us wanted to show. Adrian had a reputation. People whispered about him in the neighborhood gang fights, late-night sirens, a father who abandoned him, a mother drowning in her own misery. They called him a fallen angel, someone who used to be good but had crashed so far he could never climb back up. But I didn't see that. I saw the way his hands trembled when he lit a cigarette, the way he avoided eye contact when anyone asked about his future, the way he laughed loud and reckless but always with a sadness lurking underneath. The more I saw him, the more I realized Adrian wasn't dangerous. He was lost. And God help me, I wanted to be the one to find him. One night it all came crashing down. I was walking home from my part-time job at the diner when I spotted him again. Except this time he wasn't alone. 3 guys had cornered him, fists clenched, ready to teach him a lesson he probably didn't deserve. "Adrian," I heard myself shout, like I had any right to call his name. His head whipped around, eyes wide with something between shock and fear. In that second, I didn't think. I just ran straight into the mess. Fists flew, shouts echoed. My ribs screamed in pain when one of them hit me hard. But somehow we managed to break free, sprinting down the dark streets until our lungs burned. We collapsed in the back of an empty parking lot, my chest heaving, his laughter spilling out between gasps. "You're insane," he said, staring at me like I was the strangest thing he'd ever seen. "Yeah," I panted. "But so are you." Something shifted in his gaze then. The hard edge softened just for a moment, and I swore I saw the boy he used to be. Vulnerable, human, in need of someone to care. And before I knew it, he leaned in so close that his breath brushed against my lips. My heart raced, my brain screamed warnings, but my body didn't move. "You don't know what you're getting into," he whispered. "Then let me find out," I whispered back. And then, for the first time, Adrian kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was desperate, raw, and filled with every ounce of pain he'd carried for years. But beneath that, there was something else, hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to fall alone. The days after that kiss were a blur. We met in secret hidden corners of the city, abandoned rooftops, midnight walks where no one could see us. He let me into pieces of his world, little by little, like shards of glass he was afraid to hand over but couldn't bear to keep anymore. I learned about the fights with his mother, the drugs he swore he'd never touch but couldn't escape being surrounded by, the nights he spent wandering the city because home wasn't home anymore. And I told him about Mimi boring life, my suffocating expectations, the way everyone thought I was the golden boy who never messed up. The truth was, I was just as broken as he was, only in quieter ways. Together, we weren't perfect. We weren't even stable. But we were real. And for the first time in my life, real was enough. Yet fate, cruel as ever, wasn't going to let us stay hidden forever. It was a Friday night when everything unraveled. Adrian showed up at my window, bruised and bleeding, eyes blazing with fury and fear. "I need to get out," he said, his voice shaking. "They're not gonna stop this time." "Who?" I asked, panic rising. "The guys from last time. And more." He bit his lip hard, like he wanted to swallow his fear but couldn't. "They think I snitched. They want me gone." I froze, the reality of his world crashing into mine. This wasn't some romantic secret anymore. This was survival. And in that moment, I had to decide, was I willing to risk everything for him? The answer came before I even thought. "Yes," I said, grabbing his hand. "We'll run. Together." He stared at me like I was insane all over again. Then, slowly, a tear slipped down his cheek. "No one's ever chosen me before," he whispered. "Then let me be the first." And that was the night Adrian and I ran, not just from danger, but from the lives that were killing us. We didn't have a plan, just 2 backpacks, a crumpled map, and a desperate hope that anywhere was better than the place we left behind. The night air was sharp, the streets half empty, and the world felt suspended between danger and freedom. Adrian's hand never let go of mine. It was trembling, but for once, it wasn't from fear. We jumped on the first bus out of the city. Seats sticky, windows cracked, the smell of gasoline clinging to everything. But when Adrian slumped against my shoulder, eyes heavy with exhaustion, I realized it didn't matter where we were going. As long as he was there, it was already better than anywhere I'd ever been. For hours he slept like that, his chest rising and falling, the tough, reckless mask he wore finally stripped away. He looked younger, almost innocent, like the boy he might have been before life carved scars into him. I found myself tracing the lines of his face with my eyes, memorizing every detail, terrified of the day he'd vanish from me. When he woke, the sun was bleeding across the horizon. He blinked at me, groggy and beautiful, and whispered, "Why are you still here?" "Because I told you," I said softly, brushing a strand of hair from his eyes. "I'm not letting you fall alone." For the first time since I'd met him, he smiled without sadness clinging to it. It wasn't a smirk or a defense. It was real, and it broke me in the best way. The days blurred into weeks. We moved from town to town, scraping by with whatever jobs we could find, washing dishes, sweeping floors, stocking shelves. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was ours. Sometimes we fought, his temper flaring, my stubbornness pushing back, but every time, the silence after would end with his arms wrapping around me, his breath shaky against my neck, his voice raw as he whispered, "Don't leave," and I never did. We learned each other in ways words couldn't explain. I learned he hated thunderstorms because they reminded him of nights when no one came home. He learned I chewed on pens whenever I was anxious. I learned he carried a small scar on his hip, hidden beneath denim, from a fight he never won. He learned I had dreams I was too afraid to admit out loud. Together, we pieced ourselves back, not into perfection, but into something strong enough to survive. One night, months later, we found ourselves sitting on the hood of an old car in a quiet field. The stars spread across the sky like promises. Adrian lit a cigarette, the ember glowing against the darkness, and handed it to me. I shook my head. "You know I don't smoke." "Yeah," he said, exhaling. "But sometimes I think you're the only thing keeping me from burning all the way down." I reached over, took the cigarette from him, and crushed it out on the metal. "Then let me." His eyes widened, glassy under the starlight. "You really mean that, don't you?" "I've meant it since the night I ran with you," I said. And before he could argue, before he could push me away the way he always tried to, I leaned in and kissed him. Slow this time, gentle. The kind of kiss that wasn't about fire or desperation, but about staying. When I pulled back, his face was wet. He laughed, embarrassed, swiping at his tears. "You're such an idiot." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "But I'm your idiot." He kissed me again, harder this time, like he believed it. Life didn't magically fix itself. The world didn't suddenly become kind. There were still nights we barely made rent, mornings when we wondered if running had been the right choice. But whenever doubt crept in, I'd find his hand searching for mine in the dark, fingers tangling with a quiet plea. And every time I answered by holding tighter. We built something small but real. A home made of mismatched furniture and second-hand blankets. A rhythm built on laughter over burnt pasta and whispered confessions before sleep. A love forged not from perfection, but from survival, from choosing each other again and again, even when it hurt. Adrian once told me he thought fate hated him, that he was cursed to fall forever. But lying beside him, listening to his steady heartbeat against my chest, I realized fate hadn't abandoned him. It had brought him to me, and I wasn't letting go. Years later, when I look back, I won't remember the fights, the fear, or the nights spent running. I'll remember the way Adrian's hand fit in mine like it was always meant to be there. I'll remember the first time he let me see his scars and didn't flinch. I'll remember the way his eyes softened, the way his laughter finally lost its edge, the way his love turned from desperation into peace. Fallen angel chose me, and I chose him again and again, until choosing him wasn't even a choice, Anna Marie, it was fate. And maybe that's what love really is. Not saving someone, not fixing them, but walking through the fire together, even when the world wants you to burn. Adrian once told me no one had ever stayed. Now, when he wakes in the middle of the night, reaching for me, he doesn't even have to ask. He knows. I'm here. Always. And forever. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.